My name's Don Konantz. I'm the CEO of Hops Connect. At Hops Connect, we grow, process, import, and distribute the finest hops from around the world. We do this for Canadian craft brewers so that they can express themselves and make great beer. We work in partnership with the Barth Haas Group, who have operations in Australia, in Europe, and in the Pacific Northwest. Sasquatch is a proprietary hop that's been brought onto the marketplace by Hops Connect. It's the first Canadian patented hop. We have worldwide plant breeders' rights. It's a truly Canadian hop. Following our first commercial harvest in 2018, we supplied Sasquatch to over 50 breweries across the country. We're just so excited about what's possible here with Sasquatch.
Hey everyone, Stephen Willis here from Hops Connect. I'm zooming in from our brand new office and warehouse in the heart of East Vancouver. We're excited about what's possible here in the new space and can't wait to have you all down for a visit and tour when we're allowed, of course. At Hops Connect, we are fortunate to work with world-class hop growers from all corners of the globe. And one of our key partners is Hop Product Australia, headquartered in Hobart, Tasmania. This time last year, just before closures, we were able to head down as a team to visit and check out where these beautiful hops come from. The man I'm about to introduce is a friend and a big part of why that trip was so memorable. Owen Johnston is the head of sales and marketing at HPA and deals with international brewing customers and distributors from all around the world. Previous to hop industry, Owen opened and was the head brewer at Moo Brew in Tasmania for 10 years, where he racked up medals at the Australian and International Beer Awards. Owen has also been a beer judge at many international competitions. Owen has extensive knowledge of the hop industry supply chain from the farm to the brewery floor, and he's here to give us an overview of hop trends and insights into Australian hop flavors. So without further ado, Owen, over to you, you legend.
Thanks, Stefan. G'day, everybody. Super nice to be here. Firstly, thanks to Denny and Ian and the MBAA there for a deep dive on some CIP. It's always really interesting to, especially now I'm not in the brewery, it's really interesting to catch up on some of that really nice content. Thank you. Also, thanks very much to the BC Brewers Conference. You know, I guess one of the silver linings with all this pandemic business is that we get the opportunity to, you know, present and come and see you guys in a different way. And I never would make it to Vancouver or up into BC there on the cusp of our harvest, where we're all geared up, ready to go, and it just wouldn't be something I'd be able to do. So this is a really good opportunity. So thank you. And to Stefan's point about Hops Connect and the HPA partnership, you know, we really love working with Canadian brewers, and our conduit, our channel, our partners in crime there are Hops Connect, and the guys have been an amazing you know, partner with us. They're straight line from our cool stores here in Tasmania, refrigerated transport straight into their two cool stores, East and West Canada. You know the boys on the team there at Hops Connect. They're a great bunch of guys, and I have absolute confidence that our hops are going to perform in your beers, and the Hops Connect link in that chain is just absolutely critical. So let's get into it, hey? So today, let me just get my screen working. One thing you'll learn about me shortly is that IT and technology is not really my strong point. I'm a bucket chemist from way back, and this is great. Let's you know, be kind to me. There's some pretty ugly slides coming up, so hopefully the content's better. All right, here we go. So for those of you who don't know us, just really briefly, I'm going to go through some history and a little bit about us and what we are as a capability and a couple of growing locations, and a little snapshot of current varieties. And I'm absolutely certain this content will be available after the conference, so we'll whiz through it, and you can come back and go deep on anything that you'd have needed more time to digest. So we're about 90% of the total hop industry here in Australia, the hop growing industry. We've got 2 sites up in the northeast of Victoria. So hopefully you all recognise the eastern seaboard of Australia. This is our Victorian operation up here in the high country at the foot of the ski fields. We've been operating around Rostrevor for, well, since around about 1895. Down in Hobart, Stefan and Will and Don and the boys came down, spent some time with me in my hometown. Down here, got to show them the sites, and of course we spent a full day out on the farm, wandering around, getting lost, seeing all the sites and the colour and movement of harvest last year. So Bushy Park is historically the older of the 2 sites. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail later. So this is the Victorian, and again, here's a really ugly slide. This is the Victorian operation in 2 valleys. This is the Ovens River snaking down the valley here, flowing from right to left. And the farm is literally right on the end of that blue arrow there. Our recent expansions have mostly been on the Buffalo River here. You can see the storage dam here, and the Buffalo River flows down this way toward Mariang and the regional centre of Myrtleford there. We've put our own picking and kilning complex here at the head of the Buffalo River. There's some beautiful country up there if you get the opportunity to come out here in the future. Hopefully things are different, and we'd love to see you out and show you the sites. Tassie. Main features of the Tassie farm are the Styx River, which runs right through the middle of the farm, bisecting the farm and entering the Derwent River down here. The Derwent, you can see it snaking away through here. The Derwent is one of Tassie's 4 big rivers, and of course it plays a really integral part of our sustainability out there with really healthy water rights. You can see the farm, so this is all farmland here. You can see the hop farm sort of bends around this pivot irrigator at the neighbouring dairy. We go all the way around and out the side here, right up the Styx. So it's a beautiful bit of countryside. In relation to why we've been harvesting there for, what is it now, 154 years, 155 years, they're the general environmental factors that most hop growing regions around the world, enjoy. Here's a little picture of the Derwent, by the way, and that Fenton Forest block. What a picture. Latitude is, of course, appropriate. We actually have some stability in the weather. We're about 50 k's inland from the coast, and of course it's the right soil, the old dinosaur swamp, the alluvial soil. Brief history of Tassie, of the Tasmanian farms there at Bushy Park. The hop industry was established very early in after settlement, and although it had quite a wobbly start for the first 30 years, a fellow called William Shoebridge is acknowledged as the pioneer. He came out on a boat called the Denmark Hill in 1822, and with some rhizomes, and he was the one who managed to get a stable growing industry going. And it was his son, Ebenezer Shoebridge, who planted hops for the first time in the junction of the Styx and the Derwent rivers there, in a block that we're still farming today. You won't be surprised to hear that there's Galaxy in that block. First harvest in 1865 there at Bushy Park, 3.5 tonnes from 3.2 hectares. Now, that's a terrible yield, and bless them for soldiering on. But that said, there are still some commercial varieties out there at the moment that are yielding like that. So the first varieties, just out of interest, were a hop sort of colloquially known as whitebine. I'm actually not sure It might even be just another name for Fuggles, and there were certainly Fuggles known as Fuggles on the farm at that time. Fast forward, modern times, I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story about what we've done recently. Forgive the ugly slide. You know, even as recently as 2010, we were a 95% alpha producer, 5% in, you know, classic aromas. And we've been on a pretty steep journey. We're not the only ones undergoing this kind of change, trying to keep up with modern trends. So here we've got a little snapshot of us topping out basically there in 2019. With a full pivot toward a modern array of proprietary varieties. Last year, Super Pride was our only sole purpose bittering hop, and that constituted something like 6% of our total output. Galaxy, just for reference, was released in 2009, and things really start to take off after that. A little insight by variety here. You can see this. This blue line. This is bittering hops really taking the plunge as Galaxy comes up, and then out here, of course, our others, Vic as our number 2 hop, Ella, and Enigma. And most recently, of course, we've released a hop called Eclipse, and that is on a trajectory to sit in there right under Vic's Secret. A little bit more on the modern times. Since 2014, we've undergone a couple of phases of expansion to allow us to try and keep up with demand, especially around Galaxy. In most recently, the second phase of expansion in 2018, we began to move ahead with that $35 million expansion in the Buffalo River. And look at that picture there. That is one of the new blocks out on the Buffalo. Up, if you remember, there's a little place called Nug Nug. What a glorious little place. With some glorious big hop fields. This is going to bring us up to 900 hectares across the 2 sites, and we're well on the way to fulfilling those that project and having our total production sort of stabilised at its estimate about 2024. I mentioned we moved to a suite of modern Australian varieties. These are all outcomes of our own in-house breeding program. I won't dwell too much here. There's obviously a lot of information there, and it'll be available down the track, but you'll see some hops you're definitely familiar with. I will dwell a little bit on Eclipse, of course, because I'm pretty damn excited about this beer, this hop. Yeah, well, I am pretty excited about beer too. So Eclipse shares a mother of Galaxy and is an open pollination with North American. Hops Connect have some samples and have a limited quantity in the store and have been sampling that out. So I'm hoping that some people here, you know, if we're in the room, I'd ask you to raise your hand if you've seen it or heard about it, but it doesn't work like that. So please reach out, check it out, and we always value feedback. So we know we're very confident it stands up, but we really want to see what it can look like in that just immense range of settings that craft continues to present. Now, very briefly on circling back on the 2020 results, as I said, we're on the cusp of the 2021 harvest. Harvest will kick off in 3 weeks, right there at the end of February, start of March. So very briefly, we had a pretty good season. We didn't have any calamities, no hailstorms or drought, but we did have those huge bushfires. Hottest temperatures ever recorded in January up in the Victorian sites. Here's a little bit more lighthearted story. The bushfires are pretty tragic, and I think they probably made global news. But I always like to bring it back to something a little more fun. And I was thinking about, especially about what 3.4 million strings really means, and that number of 22,000 kilometres of string. And I'm assuming some of you in the room have taken that flight direct from Vancouver down to Sydney. Well, you could just about get back to Vancouver on that 22,000 kilometres. It's an immense amount, especially when you consider that they are still hand tied at the top and digged twice into the soil down below. So an immense amount of effort goes into standing that crop up. By the numbers, blast through this as well. You can see year on year, bit of a mixed bag. Galaxy up, Topaz had a good season, and the rest slightly down. We budget for about up to a 15% variance on our production targets. So what I can say about those guys, those varieties that came in with negative year-on-year variation, is that isn't because we've deprioritised them or grubbed out. That is because of just yield year-on-year. That's just how that season came in. So that speaks to the confidence of those using these hops. We're not deprioritising them and just going deep on Galaxy, and I'll talk to that sort of consideration later when we talk about harvest window. Again, pretty top level here. This dark blue column, total production, heading up, and we're probably a little higher than that current estimates. And of course, everyone's favourite topic, what's Galaxy doing? And you can see it tracks along there. But we are, how would you say, we are constrained by this consideration of harvest window. So to blow that up a little bit further, let's have a look at the question everybody wants to ask. What about Galaxy? And you can see in our current land base, it's going to occupy just over 50% of the total production, and that is what we can, and then go out on a steady state until we sink some more money into the ground. This is what we think we can harvest in a responsible, high quality approach. And what does high quality mean in harvest, and how we manage the assets on the farm? Well, it means about delivering flavour. It means delivering on the promise of impact in beer for you guys. And the timing of harvest is really important here. We are strong believers in the concept of harvest window and performance in beer borne out by decisions we make on farm at the time, and of course post-harvest processing. Optimization of the window can't be a simple wait and see maximum oil. It will drive losses through physical degradation of the cones. It will make processing harder, and it will undermine sensory outcomes. So I guess an easy go-to is the onion and garlic. The old O&G, they belong to a family of short chain polyfunctional thiols, and they are the last to accumulate. And if we start to look at a simple picking paradigm of wait till maximum oil, we'll actually miss the target for performance in beer overall. So we have to balance and try and deeply understand considerations around that. This is again, not exactly pretty, but this is authentic. This is driven by real world data sourced off our own farms. And let me unpack it a little bit for you. So 60 days here from the top. 60 days marks the start of harvest, start of March. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with dry matter here. And you can see this green line pretty much running straight. Now, dry matter represents progress toward autumn and the drying out and the senescence of the whole plant. And in nature, the hop cone would turn brown and drop off the plant on its natural trajectory. And that's what this represents, the trajectory towards senescence. You can see this dark blue line of cone weight. Where's alpha? Orange. So you can see alpha peaks here, cone weight peaks here. All of these in the green in this heat map here, alphas, betas. But back to the essential oil and the oil accumulation. Peak oil doesn't happen until out here. If we target essential oil and try and harvest everything out here, we will see losses. We will see the physical shattering of cones and dramatic increases in the HSI, the hop storage index, which none of us need. We don't need it from an economic yield point of view, and we don't need it from a performance in beer point of view. So how do we learn, and how do we understand as both producers and as brewers how HPA went balancing these conflicting agendas here? Total accumulation of flavour active metabolites versus the practicalities of harvest and losses and potentially going too far and driving O&G and high HSIs. You can learn a lot from your COA. And here I'd like to sort of bring your attention down to, so these are the variables on your COA, but here down the bottom is the, let's say 4 scenarios, how you might interpret the COA. From number 1 here, just imagine you understand the variety specific COAs and the ranges a particular variety might see on these variables. You need to understand your hops at that level, I feel, if you're going to let the COA tell its story. If it's Galaxy we're talking about, what is the range of Galaxy that you might see normally? And our spec sheets will show you a range. You can go to hops.com.au and see tech sheets for all of our varieties. Now, it'll be this. Hopefully, this narrative applies to all of the hops that you bring in, including Sasquatch and to the US varieties. A situation where you have a low alpha, low oil, high alpha to beta ratio, and a high HSI, that tells you a story. That tells you it was harvested late and it likely saw some degradation post-harvest. You can see scenario 2. A mix of those variables, low alpha to beta ratio and oils, HSI, is probably harvested early but handled well. Now let's just jump over to situation 4, which is your ideal COA story here. We've got low HSIs to start with. Alpha is normal inside the range. Alpha to beta ratio is normal. Oils might be high in the range. That means it was harvested in the window and it was treated well post-harvest without experiencing any degradation or process-driven increases in HSI. Now, I'd recommend everyone sort of get their head around it. If it's a hop that's important to you, go that deep, understand the ranges that you see on COAs, ask your supplier for some insights around the story that the numbers tell you if you're not certain, or you're establishing this understanding. And I know that myself and the Hops Connect boys can sort you out there with an interpretation. So we've been talking about oil accumulation, these flavour active metabolites. We've been talking about the balance between harvest window and considerations in that way. And what are those compounds that create fruity flavours and aromas? And there are, of course, some key classes of compounds with many iterations of individual molecules in those. So some of these transfer directly from hop into beer, and the rise of dry hopping has made that a more relevant statement. Others present as non-flavour active precursors and are modified through these biotransformational pathways and enzyme activity, which can liberate flavour active compounds. Again, pretty heavy slide here, but you'll see the categories, the compound categories up here. You can see some examples down this way. And I invite you to, if this is really floating your boat and you want to go deep on this stuff, there's some really great references down here. Takoy is one of my favorites, an original researcher who's really gone from beer back into hop chemistry rather than a hop farmer trying to understand hop chemistry and its impact in beer. So have a look at those, and again, go down the rabbit hole on those. I wanted to circle back on this story, right? This is where we are talking about harvest window considerations here, and we've got this heat map, and I'm trying to bring these two things together about accumulation of flavour active compounds. Now, just to bring that thread together, we are waiting for this period of essential oil accumulation, especially with something like Galaxy, which is really thiol driven, and the harvest considerations about loss and appropriate picking, processing, and post-harvest treatment, so as not to drive any wobble in quality output. So we've got this two-speed conversation here about waiting for accumulation and this contradictory stance that we need to get these free thiols accumulated to get that varietal specific performance, and we can't wait too long on account of not being able to harvest it well. Just circling back to our new hop Eclipse, and along this thread of maximising impact in beer, Eclipse harvests just after Galaxy, which is very appealing to us. Galaxy is a bit of a bully in the harvest window. Its essential oil profile is similar to Galaxy, monoterpene dominated. Galaxy is almost completely devoid of sesquiterpenes. Eclipse has a little bit more in its overall profile, and we've done some really exciting work on two-dimensional gas chromatography to establish their fantastic 3D maps of relative content across those flavour active compound categories. Again, head to hops.com.au and there's a bunch of blogs on all this stuff if you want to go deep. One thing we are still yet to really sharpen up on is understanding before commercialization, and I'm happy to be completely transparent on that. We are still discovering what it is in terms of glycosidically bound compounds that are liberated through biotransformational pathways. If we can understand those better in our raw material, we'll understand what their potential flavour impact in beer is. Will it influence the picking window? Probably not. It's hard to move the picking window for a variety, but we need to understand the flavour potential of our hops so that we can ensure performance in beer. It is very hard to solve problems if we don't understand what we're looking for down on the farm level. So last slide from me, guys, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. We've got this blog post up on the hops.com.au website. Just from the bottom, this is some fascinating stuff, and I'm probably being a bit of a nerd here. You know, using near infrared technology to identify the sex of our brand new cohort of cultivars crossed in our breeding program, and if the breeder, if Simon Whittock's objective here is to throw commercial varieties, the males immediately are not relevant to that search for a new cultivar. We can increase our throughput by screening out the males before we even plant them out in the field. We can understand them, know them, and bin them. A little bit about water sustainability, supply chain considerations, and corporate citizenship around string. Our coir string comes from India and Sri Lanka, and we've done our own audits of our suppliers over there and how that dovetails into our sustainability. And more about COA and analysis we undertake during pre-harvest and during harvest. So all that piece on COA discussion is buried in there. A very hop storage 101 to help you know, new breweries who are establishing how to treat your hops once they're in the brewery, and some advice there. Very entry level stuff. It's not all super sciencey. Something for us, a little bit about our disease-free status here in Australia, and our quarantine is very strict. We don't want backyarders bringing in you know, diseased cultivars and really jeopardising our entire industry. A little bit about contracting, and my advice there is very easy. Go straight to Hops Connect and have a chat to the boys about how to secure your hop requirements for the future. And of course, as a member of the Bartas Group, we support their publications across a lot of things, sustainability initiatives, and their global hop report, which is a fascinating read. Even if you only read the intro, it's always a really interesting worldview and always covers a lot of ground. So I highly recommend it. And that's all from me, folks. Thank you very much. I will endeavour to return us to the Zoom room. Right
hey,
on.
what's going on, guys?
Stefan, how are you? You well?
OJ, 1 second. Actually, if the moderators, if you can put up Will's, add Will in, and then I'm going to hang up on this just because I have my phone. We're on the computer right now.
I know it's late in the afternoon there, guys, but have you been on the beers or what? It's only 10 o'clock over here, at 10:30 here in Hobart, 10:30 on Friday morning. A bit of a long black. Can you see that? A long black before I started, beer afterwards. We're almost at beer o'clock, 11 o'clock.
Hey guys. Perfect.
So I've just jumped back into the Zoom chat. I can see the Zoom screen again now, and I see 25 comments in the chat box there. Lucky I wrapped it up with 15 minutes to go or so. Hey.
Yeah, man, that was beauty. Thank you so much, OJ. That was awesome.
Not a problem. Hope there was something in there for everybody.
Yeah, so just a few kind of questions we've had come in before and in the chat here. Just kind of a bit of a more in-depth dive into the profile of Eclipse and like kind of where it fits in, what type of beer styles you've seen it play in, and yeah. Let
me see if I can bring up a spec sheet to share with you. It's a fascinating hop. It's been in the program for quite some time. It was in a leading cohort of advanced varieties for many years, and our timing of release is very much constrained. We can only sustain like one new hop every couple of years or something. Otherwise, we don't have the land resource to support that hop coming out.
Yeah.
No one wants hollow promises out there. If you build a beer that's got Eclipse in it, I want to know, and I want to be able to go with you.
Sure.
So our central promise there is not to just go willy-nilly and commercialize everything all the time.
Yeah.
Just see if I can do this for you. No, screen sharing's off. That's fine. So Eclipse for me is right in the wheelhouse of modern craft. It is a huge performer in IPAs, NEPAs. Its headline flavour descriptor is Mandarin, and the number of times I have, and I've been around people who crack a beer, rip the top off a stubby or pour a glass and just go, oh yeah, I get it, or, delicious Mandarin. It's reliable, it's present, it has impact, it does what it says on the label. I feel like the hop we tried to commercialize before Eclipse, an experimental variety called HPA 035, was complex. It was spice and floral, and it was difficult to use, and it was niched in styles that maybe didn't have broad appeal. And Eclipse is completely the opposite. I said, I want a hop that stands up in every style. I want a hop that has impact and is immediately identifiable. The way Galaxy continues to pop its head up in any sort of hop recipe grist, so to speak, I think Galaxy is one of the more identifiable hops in the world, and Eclipse is right there in that same scope of like presenting a really readily identifiable Mandarin flavour, which is I think
a lot of the feedback we've had is it's like it just plays well, really well with others. We've seen it a lot of like pale ales, IPAs, NEPAs, like all kind of across the board, which is really awesome.
Yeah, fabulous. And
it's so good.
It's I feel more confident about this hop than any other hop we've commercialized up to this point. I wasn't in the business when they did Galaxy, but Ella, Vic's Secret, Enigma. I think Vic is really coming into its own, and that is a delicious hop. But Eclipse is just, I believe my own spin here. I'm completely brainwashed by this hop. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Nipping at its heels. I love it. That's so good. So another one here, just as Galaxy grows, how will you handle the consistency? Just as your acreage grows and in different areas.
Yep, perfect question, and really relevant to brewers' concerns about continued performance. And through that presentation, I was very clear about, we're going to hit 2,500 tons, and Galaxy can only make up, I think sits at something like 55%. Galaxy can only make up a portion of that, and that is right in the heartland of answering that question. We are going to be modest about what we can achieve with Galaxy in our current land base and processing capabilities and all of that. And so right from the start, we're saying we're only going to grow this much because we can only bring that much in a responsible window. We are constantly working on, right from farm level, we're constantly working on nutritional programs, making sure our fertigation and our moisture is our water is bang on. Right before harvest, we're making sure we put great hops into the system, that we pick great hops in terms of understanding some of our processes post-harvest. What's the impact of kilning conditions? Are our conditioning floors achieving what they need to? Is our bale press running optimally? We set KPIs on how long a bale resides at the bale press in ambient before it's in the cool store. We have 95% of our bales in the cool store within 3 days. That's literally like straight after.
Amazing.
That's a lot of bales. That's rolling 40-foot taut liners every day, every location. We want to put great material into our system so we get great material out. We blend in-house. We blend a lot to achieve the highest possible quality with the lowest possible lot-to-lot variation. And this is something that I feel is very fair. On
how many batches,
customer base.
How many batches per variety are you guys getting out? The Galaxy must be pretty broad.
Oh, by the absolute number of lots that we put in pellet, there is quite a few, maybe 50 or 60, but it's got a kind of another dimension to that, Stefan. It's like some batches are 40 tons and some are 10. It's fair. Not just like 50 times 40 tons equals that. I don't think you can correlate the number of lots with variance in lot.
Yeah, it can be pretty specific, I would imagine.
Yeah.
With last year, you guys had some pretty bad fires, pretty bad weather. How was this year's crop, this year's harvest? How is it looking so far?
It's looking really good. We've had a very mild season. Thankfully, we had let me get this right. La Nina this year. So typically,
you got that right.
I'm not a farmer or a weatherman, apparently. The generalized synopsis there is that it's wetter and more mild, and that's really treated our farms quite well. From January 2020 record heat, set in January 2020 and those raging fires, to this year, very mild. Nighttime temperatures have come up just sort of halfway through January, helping us drive maturation. Everything looks like it's rolling out really well, and the mild season seems to have treated the plants quite well. And that's probably as much to do with increased rainfall as it is to do with, not suffering under heat waves.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so now let me put all the caveats in place here. We're a long way from harvest. We're sitting on a good looking crop. It's got, everything's at the wire where we expect it. The plant architecture with nice laterals, nice cone sites, everything's kind of looking pretty good.
I love it.
But all bets are off until, as we say on the farm, it's in the bale. Once it's in the bale, we can start to quantify what we've got.
You can breathe a little. You can a little sigh of relief. I love it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Australia and Canada are both very similar in our values. A lot of the same kind of foods, flavors, everything. We're very much aligned. How has the Australian beer industry reacted with COVID and with the pandemic? As far as that goes, what styles or what new styles are you seeing come out of Australia that you're excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question, broad question. So I guess the pandemic response was and I'm sure everyone in the room will have a cold sweat right now. There at the end of March and the start of April, man, it was balls to the wall. It was very, very stressful. Hospos shut down. Luckily, brewery workers were designated essential workers, and we were allowed to keep brewers brewing. There's nothing surer than society would go into revolution if the beer supply got cut off. So they were very sensible in their essential worker category there.
Yeah.
But then what we really saw, and I tell you what, it's bloody inspiring. And I know your brewing audience did it as well. And our industry really busted their balls, pivoting, finding new ways to market, making their beer accessible in spite of the challenges. And there are some changes to people's businesses that will persist even if this pandemic ends. You know, there are channels to market and great strategies that have been executed that have merit. They'll stay. It's really exciting, and God, hats off to those often small businesses and owner operators and
being able to pivot.
Oh yeah, man, so much respect for those guys. And I guess in terms of how that filtered through to beer and beer style, there was a little sort of push on gateway and session and lower alcohol as a trend that has persisted. And even if that's just depowering a given style, you know, if it was a 5% American pale ale, you know, maybe it's 4.2 now. You know, maybe the new release for the pandemic, you know, about accessibility was to back off the booze a little bit. So there's a couple of trends there, but I am pleased to say that even when people are releasing, we've got 3.5% by volume. In our country, it's actually categorically called a mid-strength at that point.
Okay,
we've got craft mid-strength emerging now with great beers, and this is new for us because a lot of the mid-strength craft has been a bit ordinary.
Yeah,
for a while.
That's fair.
but what makes my heart beat harder is that a lot of these great mid-strengths that are coming out from the craft sector now are hop forward. They're just delicious beers. They're smart. They're not trying to be IPAs at 3.5%. They're actually just great balanced beers. So I'm looking forward to where those styles and where these initiatives go. And again, I'll say hats off to the guys out there, guys and girls out there running these breweries under these pressures.
Yeah. Okay. So this one we just got in via text. What's the best beer you've had this year that had Aussie hops in it? And what kind of beer was it? What style?
Geez, you know, I got to be really careful because, you know, like this beer here that I'm going to drink straight after, that is going to be the best beer.
I'm having one right now too. There you go.
The best beer I've had is this next one, right? So, you know, I'm really, really lucky. If you happen to see us on Instagram or follow us on any of the other platforms, you'll have seen us release a mixed dozen of single hop Eclipse beers.
That was awesome. We followed that quite a bit.
A great initiative and a real push to bring this hop right out to the beer drinker, not just like us talking to brewers and making great beers at the tap room level, but this mixed dozen went on to the biggest website retailer of craft beer in Australia and sold, you know, I don't know what it was, 1,000 packs or something silly.
Yeah.
So that little snapshot in time where I sat down with a dozen single hop beers of our newest release, that's just, for me, that was just a flavor journey. That was like cementing my understanding of that hop in dark lagers, dark ales, Belgian wits, Saison, IPA, XPA, plenty of different styles. It was fabulous.
Just two more questions here because it looks like we're going to need to wrap up. So two more. One is, are there any varieties in the breeding program that are looking really promising to you? And then the other is, do you guys produce any organics? I've seen a couple comments asking if there's any organic hops.
For sure. Let me hit the second one on the head first. We don't do organics at this point. It is something that is consistently raising its head, and we'll learn a lot. We'll have to do some research about how that all works for us. We have some pretty weighty, regulation around achieving organic certification, and it could be quite hard for us to do the whole thing, right? Now, what was the first question?
The first one was if there's any big favorites coming out of the
Yes.
breeding program, or yeah.
So one of the things we've been working on over the last year is in-house organoleptic assessment in beer. So we've got a little trial kit that we use nowadays, and we put a high throughput, small volume ferments, high throughput of cultivars that are in the program. And what that's done is open up some more assessment of these advanced varieties than previous. We always used to outreach to breweries to brew with them and feed back to us. So we're sort of always a bit secondhand, always takes a bit longer. This year, we've really rammed through quite a large cohort of advanced varieties, and there's some stupendously exciting hops in there.
Awesome.
Send
them all to Canada. That will be the testing ground.
We're talking about hops that have got like 250 grams dried. You know, we got one shot
crazy.
of it. You know,
Sweet. I love it.
We've introduced some of the Neo-Mexicanus and some of the Japanese genetics into the program maybe 10 years ago, and they are starting to come out the other end of the advanced trials now. So we're actually about to move away from the mother of Galaxy, for instance, you know, who we know is a regular performer, and we're into really new territory. And so I reckon our next commercialization could be quite different.
Amazing. I love it. Well, OJ, I think we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. So I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. This has been absolutely amazing. It's always good to hear new things coming out of Australia and just kind of what your program is all about. I mean, you guys are on the opposite side of the world from us, so it's really cool to see it from the source. So thank you so much, and thank you everybody who's organizing. This is really unreal.
Absolutely, second that completely. Thanks, Steph, and thanks, Nancy, and to the whole team there putting on the conference. I really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you today.
Beauty. Cheers, guys. Boom.
Thanks so much, Owen, for giving a presentation that I have no doubt everybody in the room, even you, can learn something from this one. And thanks to Stefan for his able job of moderating. We're going to take a quick break here. We're back at 4 o'clock for Evan Singer, who's going to talk about the power of the can and decoration. We'll see you all shortly.